Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Yesterday we talked about the two creations that might have existed before jinns by the name of Hin and Bin. And I told you that the information about Hin and Bin comes in some of the books which are written by Muslims like Hafiz ibn Kathir. However, there is no direct concrete evidence that comes in Quran or the books of Hadith. Some of the people were of the view that why are we even talking about these beings? The reason we're talking about these beings because people are trying to understand some of the ayahs from the Quran, such as in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 30, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when presented the idea of the human being to the angels, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً, that I'm going to place a Khalifa, an authority on earth, and Khalifa is somebody who comes after, from the word khalf. That means somebody was in position and these people came after. So some people jump to the conclusion that, well, they were replacing jinns. Well, how do you know? For sure. Maybe there were other beings that were created before jinns, or between the jinns getting displaced and humans taking charge. Because the next part of the same verse says that the angel respond by saying, أَتَّجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا, will you place in it someone who will spread corruption there? Well, people can jump to the conclusion, yes, jinn caused corruption, so therefore they were replaced. They were first of all displaced, and they left the lands and they were thrown out in the islands. So when the land was clean and clear, and then humans came about to replace them as successors, in the meanwhile, angels were the caretakers of the earth. However, the next few words, وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ, and they will cause the bloodshed. Now, we know that jinns, in whatever form they are in, they don't cause what we call a bloodshed. The word dima is extremely important. If it was to be about, okay, they would be killing each other, that would be a different. But the word dima need to be understood. There might have been beings after the jinns, before the humans, that might have been placed here. Or maybe there are beings before jinns even, like we talked about hins and bins. And jinns might not the only beings. There might have been other creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that might have dwelled here on this planet Earth, which is billions and billions of years old, and the human life on Earth can be measured in very short span of time compared to the lifespan of Earth. So there might have been other beings Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have created that we do not know of, because when you look at Surah Al-Fatiha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, all praises for Allah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Lord of all worlds. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says that وَمَا يَعْلَمُ جُنُودَ رَبِّكَ إِلَّا هُ, nobody knows about the army of Allah but Allah Himself. And إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٍ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all capable. So there are many verses of the Quran that we need to understand, and as we are exploring more things, we need more understanding. So that basically brought us into reading some of these books that are written by earlier Islamic scholars like Ibn Kathir. Another being that comes in the works of Al-Mas'udi, a very famous historian, and this being is called Nisnaas, which is singular, and its plural is Nasanis. It is a concept found in some Islamic literature, especially the work of a classical Muslim scholar by the name of Al-Mas'udi, who is a 10th century historian and the geographer, which is probably over 1,000 years ago. The term Nisnaas has been used to refer to a type of humanoid or a semi-human creature, sometimes described as having only half a body, one arm, one leg, and one eye. They are said to move with incredible speed, often depicted as elusive and mysterious beings. While the concept of Nisnaas appears in historical text, it is not explicitly mentioned in the Quran or the authentic ahadith. Instead, most of what we know about them comes from the writings of historians, travelers, and collectors. So some Muslim historians like Al-Mas'udi, they suggest that beings like Hin, Bin, and also there are others like Tim and Rim, which we will probably talk about some other time. Similarly, Jan and Nisnaas, they lived on earth before humans, before Adam alayhi salam. These beings are sometimes grouped with jinn or considered distinct from them. According to this view, the earth may have been inhabited by different species of creatures before the arrival of humans. And the Nisnaas are sometimes speculated to be related to jinn or an offshoot of jinn-like creatures. However, jinns are explicitly mentioned in the Quran several places as being created from smokeless fire is what we found in Surah Al-Hijr, and having free will, while Nisnaas are not directly referenced. But that doesn't mean they're not directly referenced, doesn't mean that they don't exist. For example, there's so many animals that are not mentioned in the Quran, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. Or so many birds that are not mentioned, that doesn't mean that they don't exist. So, some opinions suggest that the Nisnaas might be a subset of jinn, but this is speculative and not firmly established in Islamic theology. If they did exist, they would be considered a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because according to Islam, everything in the heavens and earth is created by Allah. The Quran does not give specific details about every single creature that lived on earth before Adam alayhi salam, but some scholars speculate about the possibility of pre-human beings like the Nisnaas, jinns, and others. So, if you look at Al-Mas'udi, who was a historian and a traveler, collected stories from various cultures, his goal was to document unique and fascinating aspects of the world, including reports of strange creatures from distant lands. So in this sense, Nisnaas may have been seen as a legendary creature, much like how European traditions talk about wild men or Bigfoot-like creatures. The Nisnaas might have been used to symbolize something deeper, like the incomplete nature of man without proper guidance or moral conduct. The half-bodied description may have carried a moral or philosophical message. So pre-Islamic Arabia had a rich oral tradition, and concepts like Nisnaas might have roots in the pre-Islamic era, just as jinn and other supernatural beings existed in the pre-Islamic belief. So did the Nisnaas. So, did Nisnaas existed before jinn? We don't really know for sure, but they've existed before humans? Yeah, probably. As I told you, that they're not explicitly mentioned in the Quran or Hadith, so claims about their existence remain speculative. If the Nisnaas were part of the same pre-human creation as creatures like Hin and Bin, they might have existed before the physical creation of Adam, but after the jinn. Again, this is another speculation. So Nisnaas, they're seen as half-bodied mythical creatures in Islamic text. In some of the, by Islamic text, like some of the Muslim text, or the text written by some of the Muslims, but no direct mention is there in the Islamic theology. Well, are they Neanderthals? Well, Neanderthals are more or less have some fossil evidences or archaeological evidences, maybe some traces of the Neanderthal DNAs. However, we have no scientific evidence of Nisnaas found yet. Again, science is very limited. Science has only come this far. Science is a progressive field. Every day they discover new things. Every day they find new things. Things that they have not yet found doesn't mean they don't exist. It's just like the science had not yet reached that point yet. Might have been possible that before humans, human-like beings, which we now know by the name of Neanderthals, might have been created and destroyed. So, Nisnaas or Nisnaas, is a creature rooted in Arabic tradition maybe, often depicted as a monstrous humanoid with only half the limbs and features of a normal human. This idea, to some, originated from Yemen. The Nisnaas has been a staple within Arabic culture. And some say, some Shia sources particularly talk about Nisnaas. So Nisnaas is sometimes, as I told you, might have been a philosophical idea describing a weak human. Some of them have actually gone to an extent by saying that it might have been a hybrid of a human. So, I mean, there are all sorts of stories that surround this idea. In historical accounts, such as those by Al-Mas'udi, people in regions like Hadramaut, which is in modern-day Yemen, and it's basically an area between Yemen and Oman, you can say, they would hunt the Nisnaas for food, is another speculation that have come in the text. So, Nisnaas, which is typically described as a half-bodied humanoid creature with only one arm, one leg, half a face, one eye, and half a head, this unusual form allowed it to hop or leap on one leg, and it was known for its incredible speed and agility. While the concept of Nisnaas is rooted in Islamic writings, and some of the historical writing, I should say, but no authentic Islamic text mentions it. So the Nisnaas, which is described as the way I described to you, and is considered to be moving by hopping on one leg or leaping in high speed, could be possible that it was faster than a normal human, and there is no clear consensus on its size. Some portray it as a human-sized, while others see it as a smaller creature. Some historical accounts hint at animal-like traits, suggesting that it may have been a combination of human and animal features. The Nisnaas is said to have only half of a face. What does that mean? It had one eye, one nostril, and one side of the mouth. Very creepy looking, right? Al-Mas'udi in Murawij al-Dhahab, which means the meadows of gold. He is a famous historian, Islamic historian, geographer, and is one of the earliest sources to mention the Nisnaas. And just so that you can understand the context, he died in 956 CE. So that's over close to 1100 years ago. He claimed that the Nisnaas were found in the region of Yemen and were sometimes hunted by locals. And other scholars and historians, especially those collecting some local traditions, sometimes mention the Nisnaas alongside other pre-Adam creatures like Hin, Bin, Rim, and Tim. And some sources claim that Nisnaas were part of the Jinn-like beings or pre-human beings created before Adam alayhi salam. As far as, is there any evidence in terms of any drawings about them? So there are no historical illustrations or drawings of Nisnaas. Since classical Islamic scholars focused more on textual descriptions than visual art, most preferences to the Nisnaas exist in written form. But in modern times, you might find illustrations or concept art of the Nisnaas, which you may find on media, websites, or YouTube videos related to cryptid discussions or mythology description. These depictions are usually inspired by the descriptions found in text. So websites that explore legends, fantasies, and things of that nature might have begun to create their own artistic interpretations of this. Some scholars argue that Nisnaas may have a symbolic or allegorical meaning, which I've talked about, but again, some are inclined to, is it something like maybe a Neanderthal? Not really, because of the same reasons that I told you. Because if you start drawing the comparison of Neanderthals to the Nisnaas, you will see that Neanderthals are full-bodied. And Neanderthals lived somewhere between, scientifically, 430,000 to 40,000 years ago. And there are fossils that can be used as an evidence for their existence, some DNA research. But on the other hand, we do not have anything of that nature about Nisnaas. Again, I just wanted to talk about some of this information that comes in some of the books, just for the sake of your knowledge, and just so that you understand why some people were so much interested in learning about some of these beings. And if you're interested, let me know in the comment section below so that we can also talk about, besides Hin and Bin, about Rim and Tim. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more such videos. And please put your comments in the comment section below.